Welcome everyone. My name is Grace and today I'll be talking about how I essentially learned design on my own to land a UX design internship at Electronic Arts. And during the time when I got my offer, I had about 8 months of experience of self-teaching myself because I'm a computer engineering major and there's no classes at my school that can teach me, but I really want to go into design. So I'll be sharing some of my non-Googleable tips I can't find on the internet during this presentation today. And throughout this time, I'll be trying to check in for comments or questions, but at the end, I'll be leaving some room for questions because I can't see the comments at the same time. So right now, I'm currently working at Electronic Arts, but I'm also a founder and design lead of Design Buddies, which is actually the largest design community on Discord. I'm also a design lead for Augment, so I create content in Augment, a community of intern leaders. I'm also an admin of Intern Club, which is the largest community of interns. We also have our InternCon tonight or today as well. A few hours. You guys are all invited to join. And during the academic year, I'm a computer science and engineering student. I'm from California, so right now it's 8 a.m. where you're at. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're from as well and what time it is. And for fun, I have my own art business. I table at anime conventions, and I also really enjoy social media and blogging. And this is a photo of me at Crunchyroll Expo with the Rilakkuma, which is one of my favorite characters. And I table at anime conventions, and I was supposed to do Crunchyroll this year, but it got canceled due to COVID. And so during this presentation, I'll be kind of going through my journey and kind of like story time, but also struggles and some lessons I've learned through those stories. And next I'll be going through some projects that helped me learn design and also helped me interview. And also I'll be going through my internship search and like my struggles and my failures and lessons I've learned from it. And I also, in fact, I got my internship at EA without applying. I got it through networking, and I'll later be talking about how exactly I did that and what exactly I sent to people. And later some resources and some time for question and answers. So let's go. And so this is a little bit about my design journey. It's kind of all over the place. Growing up, I really wanted to be an anime artist. I wanted to work in Japan and work and write manga and do anime. However, I realized that when I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so a lot of my parents, kids, teachers like really encouraged us to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer. So I came into college as bioengineering pre-med, but around high school, before college, I also was an avid cross-country and track runner, and I really enjoyed running. I also enjoyed blogging. I went through a lot of struggles, being bullied and everything, so I went to social media and I started blogging just about like overcoming bullying, running, and kind of life lessons I've learned. So I've kind of been doing that throughout. So the blue is kind of my main journey, and the green is the side hustles I started along the way. So I came to college as a bioengineering pre-med student, and I was an aspiring MD PhD neurosurgeon because one of my motivations to study bioengineering is that I wanted to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. I also felt like it was the right path for me to take, especially with my upbringing. I was convinced to do science and engineering. However, after about 2 years of doing research, I realized that wasn't the path I wanted to take. So I started kind of going into game design. I've taught myself how to make a VR game through watching YouTube tutorials, and then I kind of went into game design, development, computer science. And last year I was an intern at Intuitive Surgical as a virtual reality robotic surgery game developer intern. So I made games to train surgeons to do surgery. At the same time, I've also enjoyed drawing, and I never really left that. So I started my own art business called Candy Leaf Designs, and I started tabling at conventions. And just recently, in October 2019, I decided to kind of go into UI, UX, and product design instead. I taught myself how to do design. And while in my first quarter of grad school as a computer engineering student. And at the same time, around April, I started this community called Design Buddies because I felt like a lot of design communities online were really intimidating. I felt really afraid to talk in them, especially I felt like as a beginner, I was afraid to ask questions. So I started Design Buddies, and it has since grown to the fastest growing design community in the world and the largest on Discord. And I'll later be talking about a lot of these things and lessons I've learned and what helped me grow these side hustles. And so a little bit about kind of like the struggles I had when switching to design. So when I graduated from my bioengineering undergrad degree, it was June 2019, and I had these few professors who were pretty discouraging. They're kind of like, don't follow your passion, follow your degree. Fun fact, one of the bioengineering professors was just spending like 40 minutes with me, kind of questioning why I was going to grad school. And even though he's like an expert in that field, he was still kind of like telling me what to do in terms of design. So I learned a lot through that. I really learned to like not listen to professors, even though they might seem like experts. I also dealt with a really toxic startup and some freelance clients. I learned a lot of lessons through that. And the reason why I'm studying computer engineering in school is that I've had a lot of test anxiety and imposter syndrome, especially with regards to the GRE. So that prevented me from applying to other grad schools. So I stayed at Santa Clara because the GRE was not needed, and I didn't feel like I didn't feel ready to adult yet. So I just stayed at the same school, just like kind of extended undergrad. And yeah, I also had a really sketchy professor, and I learned a lot through that. And yeah. So some life lessons takeaway that I learned through that during my journey as design is like, don't listen to anyone who tells you can't do something. Just like my biology professor, as you have any people like that, you know yourself best, so they're not the best person to make decision for you. And as a freelancer, especially in design and any creative field, really value your work and price higher. Price at least if you're a student, at least $35 or $40 an hour, and even higher once you're not a student anymore. Because, or I mean US dollars. I don't know how it translates to other countries, but once you price higher, you get better quality clients, and I learned that the hard way. And also, if you're ever dealing with any harassment of some sort, there's this Title IX office you can reach out to that I didn't know until before. And yeah, so my past life, meaning when I graduated undergrad, what my aspirations were is that I want to be a game designer and developer. I worked on a VR game. I also worked at Into the Surgical and also a Girls Make Games, a camp to teach girls how to make games to try to address the gender gap in the gaming industry. And those are really fun. However, I felt like VR and games were kind of a niche field, and I was also really interested in design in general, and I ended up really enjoying it. This is a selfie, one of the games I made. It's a biology-inspired virtual reality role-playing game where you become a cell in VR. And just check back in the comments really quick as well. Yeah, so I will get into the questions at the end. Feel free to keep typing them in the chat and I will get to them. So some of my projects that I did to help me land my internship and just improve as a designer in general. It's a lot of different projects. You definitely do not have to do any of all of these on this list. This is what I've done. I just kind of really hustled my way, but this is definitely not mandatory for everyone to do because it's a lot. So I started with Students Who Design, which is what I've done in October 2019. It's like a free online product design course. I was just randomly scrolling through Facebook one day, and this group called HH Design, and the founder of Students Who Design posted on there. So I joined, and it basically changed my whole career path. I also did a bunch of hackathons. I did about 7 hackathons as design challenges from January 2020 till May when I got my offer, and I just wanted to keep improving on design. And this is like a really great experience if you're trying to get your first projects in design, is to work with a team and do a bunch of hackathons and solve problems and really kind of work with software engineers, PMs, and other designers to make a project. I also was part of a startup and did some freelance work. And I also, on the side, I also run Candidly Design, my art business, and I also build design buddies. And my main takeaway from doing projects like all these hackathons is to really focus on products that ship, because when you ship something, you can evaluate post-launch metrics, which is really similar to how things work in a real company, and also looks more attractive to the hiring managers after talking to all of them. And so Students Who Design, not sponsored by the way, but I worked on my first case study. I designed a bookmark feature for Discord, and I really enjoyed Students Who Design. Really highly recommend. Not sponsored again, but it really helped me demystify all these design resources on the internet, because when I was starting out, I just felt like there was just so much out there. Like there's like even like compilations of lists, and there's just like way too much information. So I felt really intimidated and just like had no idea where to start. But I felt like Students Who Design gave me a bunch of fundamentals, and it also gave me great feedback and career help as well. In my project, we each of us looked through an app, picked an app, and kind of found pain points of that and designed a solution. So my pain point was keeping up messages on Discord. Feel free to drop in the chat if you use Discord as well. And I designed a bookmarking feature, so you can bookmark specific chats, kind of like you're saving messages or saving posts on Facebook. I was inspired by that. And this is some more hackathons projects I did. I made Yeats, which is a web scraping tool to find low-cost eats, because you yell yeet when you find low-cost eats. And this is another project I have on my portfolio when I was applying to jobs. I also make Linked Up, which is like a CRM for LinkedIn to keep track of your connections. And I also did some daily UI challenges. So daily UI helps you improve on visual design skills, which is really important actually, because oftentimes hiring managers and recruiters spend less than 30 seconds or even 6 seconds. That was an average time spent looking at your portfolio. So it's really important to have captivating visuals to really capture their attention. However, daily UI challenges, it really does not teach you anything much about UX. It tells you how to make things look pretty. Like you get challenges like, oh, make an item selection screen, make a leaderboard, but it doesn't like help you solve any problems. So this is just good for just improving visual design and practicing on Figma. And how many of you are doing the daily UI challenge right now? Cool. Let me just go back. Cool. So yeah, I learned a lot from doing my design projects, mostly just really involving users at every step and just always doing user research and testing and never really making any assumptions. Always validate your design decisions with qualitative and quantitative data, and also listening more than speaking with people, because you're trying to solve a problem for the user, not yourself. It's just really take your time to understand them as well. And before starting in your project, it's really important to have post-launch metrics on how you'll measure success of your design after the product is launched or during usability testing, because it not only provides value to stakeholders, but it helps you really validate that you're going in the right path with your design decision. It's also really important to work in a team of either PM, software engineers, or even more designers, because it's like really important to get other people's perspectives as well. And also communication, and also design is such an ever-evolving field. There's always new trends, new findings from research, so it's really important to keep learning. Like you never really stop learning as a designer. And this is just a little bit of my business, and I'll talk about like what it taught me with design, because I feel like a lot of times like business, it's also really great to understand the business goals and UX design to be able to communicate with product managers and other stakeholders and further convince people of your design. So Canly Designs, like one of my case studies is, I was inspired by animals research and science, and I created some merch just for fun. I started this business about October 2019, and it's just something for fun I enjoy doing. It's my little banner. I have a candy-shaped bunny with a leaf on it called Candy Leaf, and I've been drawing this bunny for a while. So this is one of my favorite original characters. I just like made it into a logo. And this is me tabling at convention. So how many of you like going to anime conventions? Cool. I was gonna do more, but the Rona hit. And I also make pins. These are some of my most proud products that came about. I have a lychee cat enamel pin, a dango cat. And I also make charms inspired by desserts, and also boba. I really enjoy boba, and they're all original art as well. And yeah, I learned a lot from the business side of starting my own business, even just a few months. That really helps me as a designer today. And I really learned how to like market and understand trends and understanding customers, and that goes with any UX design job. I've also learned to network, which also helps you land different opportunities outside and within the company as well. I also learned customer service and really just understanding the customers and really communicating with them and having a roadmap to keep them excited and keep them coming back. And that kind of leads me to Design Buddies, another side hustle I started. So For a while, I was afraid to start design because I just felt like I without design, with an engineering degree, I just felt unqualified for these communities. And I just felt intimidated, and I just felt like I was just overall scared. So I decided to just start my own community. And I focus on it being inclusive and like just letting anyone with any design background join, because that was like me. I focus on people like me and who just like came to design from different field or learning design. And in the past 3.5 months, we became the largest design community on Discord, also the fastest growing one with over 4,500 members. And you're welcome to check out our website or join the Discord link below as well. And we have like a lot of events. We are partnered with a bunch of organizations, including Figma and Intern Club. And we've done over 10 events. We have a lot of networking opportunities as well, because one of our missions is to kind of have like opportunities accessible to people, because as someone with a non-design background, I've got rejected from a lot of jobs or got ghosted by a lot of companies because I did not have any connections. So we have people from startups to big tech companies and design buddies, because oftentimes these opportunities are more readily available for people who went to design school. However, people like me and also a lot of people who didn't go to design school, the networking is kind of a little smaller. So design buddies aims to bridge that gap. We also have a lot of speakers opportunities. You can come and speak as well, mentorship and more. And we're partnered with Amazing Design People List as well for a mentorship program. And so these are some of our first meetups we had. We had a fun Figma meetup where we just hung out on a Figma file and each of us made our own things. So we were on Zoom and Figma, and it was super fun. And Figma is like a fun meetup tool, not sponsored, we're just partnered with them. But I'm a big fan of Figma. And I've learned a lot from community management. I've really learned to focus on creating inclusive and diverse spaces and setting ground rules for people just to keep it a safe community. Like, for example, we never really had problems with it, but if people are toxic in a way, I would like quote them and tag them and call them out on that, and that helped prevent any drama or any problems caused in the server. And I would always kick people right away if people are messaging me, telling me that they're feeling uncomfortable. I also really learned to manage a team of admins and help getting these diverse perspectives to grow the community together. And we also focused on a target demographic, which is always ever changing. But at first we focused on kind of students, kind of laying the first design role, but it's since opened up to even designers with over 10 years of experience in industry, which is pretty cool. We have a lot of engaging events like meetups, talks, collaborations, partnerships with the communities, and we always listen to feedback and keep adding different features and programs depending on what people want who join Design Buddies. And we also have goals to help people stay excited. And so next in this section, I'll be going over some of my internship search and the lessons I've learned from my approach to this. And fun fact, I got my internship at EA without applying. And I've learned that kind of through my internship process that I should not be applying, I should be networking to get internships, especially in large companies like EA. And so my process went like this. So I applied from January 2020 to May 2020. I sent in about 26 applications, and this is actually like big companies, like medium to large size companies, mostly social media, games, entertainment companies. I got ghosted by most of them because I did not have any connections in those industries as well. So I did about 6 interviews, 5 final rounds, and 3 rejections, and 2 COVID-19 canceled. So who here has been impacted by COVID-19? And yeah, so I learned a lot through rejections. So my first rejection was actually for another major game company. It's because I didn't play enough first-person shooters, which is understandable. Like, I played a lot of games when I was younger, but I was a sheltered kid, so I wasn't able to play any of these games. Another reason why I got rejected was that it was during a final round interview, and it was an app critique. My question I got from the beginning was, can you redesign the logo of Venmo? And this was supposed to be kind of walking through the app, going through the product strategy and business goals instead of like more graphic design and visual skills of logo. So how I would approach this question after kind of bringing this up to other people is that I should ask more questions. I should ask the interviewer, what are the business goals of this? What are the user problems trying to solve by redesigning the logo? Like kind of what's wrong with the current logo, and kind of break down the problem and kind of go step by step, and instead of jumping right into the answer. Because for me, I just made too many assumptions and jumped right to the answer. And then during critique interviews, never ever make assumptions. Always ask a bunch of questions to really nail down the problem, and then try to come up with your own solutions based on that, because a lot of design is just asking questions and making sure you are solving the right problem. And so oftentimes the first interview you'd be getting when you apply is a behavior interview. And it just depends on the company. Later, you'll be going through portfolio reviews. Like usually behavior and portfolio review is guaranteed. Some companies are happy to do an app critique. I know Facebook does that. And you also go through, and also some companies like Google, they have a take-home design challenge for you to try to understand your design thinking. And so for behavioral, like oftentimes you'll be doing this with a recruiter or someone else on your team or your hiring manager. And you really want to focus on storytelling and process, and don't be so metrics driven. Talk about like your successes, but also really emphasize what you learned and how you got there. And what I like to do, especially during the virtual setting, is create a doc of frequently asked questions. Kind of like tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. Tell me about your greatest accomplishments. And during a virtual interview, I like to split my screen. So I actually really have these questions opened up using half my screen. So half my screen is a Zoom or video chat, and half my screen is these commonly asked questions. And I've also just had some, during my interview with EA, I also had a bunch of game industry trends with my screen as well. Just in case these questions come out, I'll have it ready to be answered, so I don't have to make sure I memorize everything, but it's also really good to know these as well. And also try to relate your experiences to the company culture, and try to align with like which pillars of these company culture align to you, and really emphasize that during the interview, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for kind of personality fit as well. And the next type of interview is the portfolio review. And for the portfolio review, I really recommend preparing a slide deck as well. Not just So you'll often be sharing your screen with the interviewer, and I would recommend preparing a slide deck just as if you're presenting during a presentation instead of scrolling through your case study, because they can already look through that, but what they won't be getting is a presentation, and oftentimes it's also much more engaging for the hiring manager. And to keep going back to the problem as well, and focus on storytelling, and keep justifying why you made the design decision and what exact problem you're trying to solve, whether it's user experience problems or business goals that you're trying to address. The next interview type is the app critique. So I always ask, like, what's the business purpose? What's the problem trying to solve of this feature? And kind of walking through the types of visual and interaction design and overall product strategy of the app, and just always asking the interviewer questions. Always ask for feedback along the way. Always, during any interview in general, it's a good idea to ask, like, answer your question, because oftentimes interviewers, they're looking for very specific things, and it's always good to get feedback along the way to make sure you're covering everything during the interview. And at the end, I would always ask if I'm missing anything. And for design challenges, it really varies by company. What I like to do is that a lot of people have actually wrote Medium articles about their experience and also published the design challenge online. So for example, Google's design challenge, people post their design challenge online on their portfolio. So you can always find that for inspiration as well for your own design challenges. And yeah, so for anything in general, focus on storytelling and relaying the design decisions back to the problem you're trying to solve. And check back in the comments. Cool. So I see a lot of questions. I'll be answering them at the end just because I can't see them in real time and I have a lot of slides. But I will be getting to all of you and leaving room for questions as well. So next section is I'll be talking about networking, and this is how I got my internship. And networking is not about asking for a job, it's about getting to know others. In fact, I never ask for a job because it can be very off-putting to others, and the purpose of it is to learn and get to know people and help understand the story, and also understand ways you can get into design as well. And so kind of this is the process I've took through networking. There's a lot of different ways you can network, but I mostly networked on LinkedIn. And at first I would make sure to have a complete profile, have some posts out, and then reach out to people on LinkedIn. But you can also, another great way to network is to join Discord communities or go to events. Like you can join Design Buddies, you can network on there as well, or network in the chat. Feel free to post your LinkedIn below and connect with other people attending the event as well to build your connections. And so make sure your LinkedIn profile is complete because it increases the response rate. Make sure you have a profile picture, and how you know your profile is complete is that you have this thing called all-star status, which means that everything is filled out, and the purpose to get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers, but also other people in the industry as well, and just make more friends on LinkedIn. And also engage the community. One thing that helped me, especially how my manager got interested, was that I post a lot on LinkedIn. I post a lot of like stories and lessons I've learned to really provide value and give back to the community and just offer my unique perspective and lessons I've learned to help other people as well. And it's also good to build your personal brand on LinkedIn as well to get noticed by people. And that's how some of my friends got their internships or got their jobs, because people in the company already knew them from LinkedIn because they posted on LinkedIn regularly already. So I highly recommend posting on LinkedIn. And these are some of the things you can post. There's definitely a lot more out there. So definitely look at your LinkedIn feed and seeing what post does well and try to like take inspiration from that, but also add your own spin to it. I've also seen a lot of people post about some takeaways from books read, articles read, or events. Like, feel free to post your takeaways about this event. Tag me as well. I'll comment on it, and all my network will see. And also having other people comment on your network, your posts will help reach their network too. And that's how LinkedIn works. It's actually quite easy to go viral on there. And I also have engagement pods and design buddies. You're welcome to join. I also like to post my works and also some emojis as well, I always see this more often on LinkedIn. People posting more emojis of being a little more fun instead of just all business all the time. Like, the culture of LinkedIn has honestly shifted to kind of like more storytelling, because I honestly feel like it's because of COVID, people are struggling a lot. So spending more time on LinkedIn, so people start sharing more. Before it was kind of more business-like just a few years ago, but during this past few months, I've definitely seen a lot more stories and a lot of more really insightful content on LinkedIn as well. And also, like, I would also like comment on other people's posts just to get on the radar, but also just provide even more value. If I have like a thought on it, I'll just comment on it as well, and also support their content. And I also like help my friends comment on their posts. I also like comment on my friends' posts as well, and also helps my network reach their posts as well. And also the third step I would do is kind of slide in DMs. I would DM people on LinkedIn and just do a coffee chat, and later I'll be doing a template of what I've exactly said to people. So the goal is to learn their story and do not sell yourself. This is not to get a job. This is to make a personal connection, personal professional connection. And when I reach out, I always send a personalized message about who I am and some similarities. Like, for example, I went to the same school. I would subtly slide that in with my under 300 character connection request message. I would be like, "Go Broncos," or just kind of highlight some similarities as well. And so this is the exact message I sent to people. Fun fact, I sent over 400 connection requests. I filtered by job title, by location, by company I was interested in, and just sent DMs to people, to UX design directors, product design senior managers, and I would add some people on the suggested column as well, and I would just kind of highlight who I am, what my goals is, and just want to learn how you got to where you are today. Looking back, this is a few months ago, I would not say this last line because oftentimes it's good to just get to know people, and mentorship can be a commitment for them, and oftentimes you don't know them yet. And mentorship, it's like a two-way street. So I would recommend actually removing this last sentence as well. And after kind of getting the response and getting some time scheduled on their calendar, I would just go with the flow. I would ask ask them for their story first and find things in common and really ask specific questions. Kind of like, I see that we both like ran cross country and track, and like, how do the things you learn from cross country and track help you as a UX design director today? And I would just like love asking like what their experience is like and like what they learned from it and what their future goals. And I would also ask them how I can help them as well, because like towards the end, since they're giving me their time to answer my questions, I would also like really want to help them. And oftentimes it'll come in like feedback for their product, listening to their podcast, sharing with their friends or anything. So always ask how you can help, because networking is a two-way street. And also people just love talking about themselves. So it's a great way to get to know people in industry in like a non-formally job specific setting. And also, again, don't sell yourself. This is a mistake I made in the beginning, especially when I went to career fairs. I sold myself too much. I talked about too many metrics, and I could tell on people's faces that it was probably not the best thing to say. It was actually pretty off-putting. So do not sell yourself. Do not make the mistake I made. And yeah, so I learned a lot of takeaways from this. Don't be afraid to ask for an informational interview, and the worst thing to say is no, but be really clear about your intentions. And your intentions are to learn about their story and to see if this field of design is the correct fit for you. Don't ask for a job. It can be really off-putting people, especially for me. I get about 15 coffee chat requests each week from anyone, and sometimes it's just people just want to refer to EA or an admin position design buddies, and those are people I do not refer. So don't ask for a job, and I would also focus on storytelling. And this is not a job interview. Do not flex your metrics. Just say, I'm really passionate about this, or like, I grew the largest design community, but this is how I got there. And just focus on storytelling, because they just want to know you as a person, not your metrics. And about like the same day or the day after, I would definitely send them a thank you note, and also adjust some action items. Maybe you reference a cool article, you want to send that as well, and make sure to follow up and maintain that connection going. And so kind of going back into where to find people with the network, these are all the places where you can find friends and people to network with. Conferences, events are a great way, because there's like so many people just going to these events, wanting to meet other people as well. And there's like groups on Facebook, Discord, Slack, and Meetup. This is definitely not the whole list. I actually have a whole list on my website. I have a design resources section on graceling.com, which I have linked later in this presentation. But you should definitely join Design Buddies, because that's the most active one out of everyone here as well. But these are great communities. Like Asian Korean Network is how Design Buddies started. I actually posted a thread about how if people want to start a design chat, and then Design Buddies was born through that. So really love ACN. There's a Hexagon UX and Friends of Figma on Slack. I really like these two because people are super supportive on there, and there to answer any Figma questions I have as well. And Figma is the most common tool I use every day. UX Misters is a really great meetup group as well. They originally started in South Bay. However, they've been expanding over the world. And so these are some resources and fun things I found helpful. So these are like compilation of design resources that I just really enjoy looking into and finding more resources and cool design tools to use and new technologies. And I also have more on my website. This is also my portfolio. I just have a lot of resources on there because it's like my FAQ I always get. So I just have it on there as well. So you're welcome to check that out. Take a screenshot of this. This presentation is also recorded. So you can just go back to this. And yeah, these are great resources. And so these are some of my favorite applications. Figma is my favorite one. I've tried XD, I tried Sketch. Figma is my favorite one. And also Notion, it's where I keep all my notes, and also my CRM. And CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, basically a database of everyone you've met. And I have this to organize my networking connections, and Notion Expert is a compilation of Notion tools. And CRM is how I remember to follow up with people and how I keep track of everyone I've met. And I also use Miro for brainstorming and Discord for team communication. And so this is kind of like the last one of my last slides I have before I go into your questions. I've learned a lot of just life lessons through just changing career paths in general. Don't be afraid to take risks. Like the worst thing you can do is fail. especially if you're pretty young like me. I'm 22 years old. It's good to like fail early on, because it's like a learning opportunity. And like the worst case is you fail, but you always learn from it. So just focus on learning, and if you don't fail, you never learn. So don't be afraid to fail. It might seem hard in the moment, but looking back, you'd be like, oh yeah, I like really, I like really happy that I didn't do engineering, didn't pursue engineering pre-med. And also really do not listen to people who tell you cannot accomplish something. I had people in my life asking me why I'm doing design. I should just stick to engineering because it was like supposedly supposed to be the higher paying field, but I was not passionate about. So I did not listen to those people, and you know yourself better. They don't exactly know you. They know the best for their field, so don't be afraid to not listen to them, even if they're experts in their field as well. And also, it's really important to live a balanced lifestyle. It's essential for long-term success. Otherwise, you'll burn yourself out. And I've been through this so many times. Especially during undergrad when I would study like 12 hours a day of pre-med. I learned that balance is really, really important. And do something that makes you happy every day, whether it's going out for a run, drawing, hanging out with friends, and just have something to look forward to every day and making sure you enjoy your job as well. So that concludes my presentation. Feel free to connect with me and reach out on any of these platforms. And I will be taking some questions now. Feel free to keep putting them in the chat, and I'll be answering them for the next 15 minutes or so. Yeah, and feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask as well. So Vivian asks, would you say being familiar with Adobe programs will help with UX design? I heard designers don't use Adobe Illustrator and is not used much anymore in UX design. What about Adobe XD for animation? So yeah, I've kind of started to see a trend away from Adobe products. Most design programs I've used are Figma and like InVision or Marvel for user testing, for prototyping and stuff. So I've kind of seen less and less, but I also feel like Illustrator is great, just in case, because Figma has its limitations as well. Like for text, you can't like make it a vector and just small things like that. So having some Illustrator knowledge is great, but Illustrator is also pretty expensive, and there's alternatives like Affinity Designer is the great one my company uses. So yeah, so it's good to learn these tools as well. And once you know Figma, the process of creating vector designs is pretty straightforward and pretty similar to that. Because once you know Figma, it can be pretty easy to pick up Illustrator. So Adobe XD is great for animations. Actually, it's like I would say that right now XD has better animation capabilities than Figma, but Figma has greater collaboration, and it's also you can see people move in real time, and oftentimes the designer, you'll be collaborating with a lot of people to make your designs. And so it's much easier for handoff for developers as well. But Adobe XD is also another great product. It's also free. Both XD and Figma are free. Yeah, Figma also has animations, but they can be, XD currently has more advanced ones. Let me see other questions I got. So yeah. So Martha asks, I've been involved with a lot of side projects, but haven't had much luck with projects that shipped. Do you have any tips looking for these opportunities to work on these type of projects? Yeah, so I would actually join like startups actually. So startups are geared towards projects that ship. Like I joined Opal, which is a mentor-mentee app. We're actually like launching beta testing soon. I worked there as a part-time product designer. So just like kind of finding friends and just starting something together. Hackathons are less likely to ship because it's such a short time, and oftentimes not everyone's like totally committed to working that idea long-term. But sometimes hackathon projects go super well, like my linked up project from Hack Now, it's now in the Chrome store. So just really like kind of doing hackathons and meeting people, because some of these hackathon projects actually turn into startups. And I also look into Design Buddies. So Design Buddies, I've also created a collaborations channel and a job opportunities channel. So a lot of times people are posting their ideas or posting their projects on there, looking for more people to help them out. So definitely check out these channels and Design Buddies to meet other people and work on something cool together. And so Regine asks, in the 8 months of when you learned design, were you studying full-time or also working at the same time? I was actually studying full-time. I was a full-time computer science and engineering grad student. But how I was able to do that, to be honest, is that I didn't focus on getting the best grades. I focused on passing my classes. Because what I personally learned from industry is that your experience and your skills matter more than your grades. Fun fact, so I was actually harassed by a professor in my first quarter of grad school, and I had a lot of anxiety, so my GPA was a 2.8. And however, companies like Google, they had me sent in my transcript. However, I still made it to my final round interview with my 2.8 GPA at Google before Google canceled their internship for COVID. So, yeah, sorry, I went off a tangent there. But yeah, I was studying full time, and I just want to emphasize how it's possible to learn design for when studying full time, because oftentimes in industry, I was never asked for my grades at EA or any other company I've applied to, and they care about your portfolio more than your grades, because your portfolio demonstrates your ability to solve problems, and grades tell your ability to follow rules, which is not oftentimes that important, not unfortunate, but kind of the main thing you'll be doing. And Kanto asked how you approach a network to get internship. So I've actually just networked on LinkedIn. I sent about 400 connection requests showing the template I used, and just went through that. But this is the first time I ever really networked. And going back, I would probably meet people at events, meet people in communities in a less formal setting. Just because I've been getting a high response rate, and oftentimes a lot of people don't check LinkedIn, but sometimes designers check Twitter, check Instagram, check Facebook, check Discord, check Slack more than they do LinkedIn. So really involving in other communities as well, and asking about how other people's experiences are, and not going to the topic of jobs right away. Okay, I'm gonna just make sure I have time for all the questions. So Regine asked, which hard technical skills did learn and which you think helped you land your internship, and how did you acquire these skills? So, well, my major is computer engineering at school. However, I don't feel like any of the things I've learned in school helped me land my internship. I feel like having a CS degree helped me, because I'm not in my internship right now, I'm not really working with developers, but I could tell with my manager, it stood out to him. So that's how my technical skills helped. But I feel like as a designer, people like to make stuff, and it's really fun to know how to learn to code, because you can make your designs come to life. And for me personally, most of my degree, it teaches me on back-end stuff, like computer architecture, operating systems, not really the front-end skills. And how I acquired it was I actually studied that in school, but there's a lot of cool YouTube tutorials out there as well. And technical skills, I guess another one I would say is Figma and prototyping. That also helped me as well. Let's see. Share this slide. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Feel free to contact me afterwards if you have any questions. So next question is, Mashad asks, what software do you use for designing? I use Figma. So Kanshanta asked, how did you manage your time and priorities? Great question. So I've just like to do a lot of different things. I've involved in a lot of different communities, also my full-time job. I also like to do a lot of speaking engagements as well, and a lot of networking. So I just try to balance out everything, and just have I do a little bit of everything each day. So I would just I work 40 hours a week at my internship, but I also make time for design buddies and just everything on Google Calendar. If it's not on my calendar, I don't remember it. So just having that, and also Notion is how I keep track of everything. I have my CRM, I have my notes, I have my blog posts on there, I have my ideas. So just Google Calendar and Notion is how I able to manage my time and keep track of everything, and also being part of communities and having people to keep me accountable as well. So Angela asks, when networking, do you ever ask for a referral at some point, or is that something other person offers? So I've actually personally never asked for a referral. I would sometimes, how I got my current internship at EA is that my current manager, when I was having my networking conversation with him, he asked me what I'm doing during the summer, and I was like, my interviews got canceled because of COVID, so I'm still actively seeking. So like because he asked first, I like mentioned that, and that's how he was like, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, "Sure." So that's how that happened. But I sent 400 connection requests, so it's really a numbers game for that. Um, and when people ask me, for coming from the other side, even though I'm an intern, like I had like over 50 people ask me for a referral. And if they're just like connecting with me, like that's like if that's like the first sentence they ask, or if that's like the first message they ask, or the first thing they say in the conversation, then I don't refer them because I feel like they're just wanted to kind of use me as a referral, or just like don't want to spend time like getting to know me. So really recommend against asking. For referral, just coming from personal experience. So Angela also asked, how would you describe design process? Yeah, so this is a great interview question, actually. It really depends because in the real world, you'll be working with a lot of constraints. Usually in a personal project setting, it's just straight like, oh, define the problem, do some research, user market research, start doing low fidelity mockups, sketching, prototyping, user testing, usability testing, getting data and making iterations. So that's typically what happens. But in a real world setting, you'll be working with politics, and a lot of people are having different opinions to that, and a lot of priorities shifted from all the stakeholders involved in the project. So when answering these questions during interviews, I always just say my process that I usually do, but also mention that in the real world, there's also like these constraints that I'll be having to be flexible in addressing as well. So Archana asks, are there career paths that are an intersection between front-end development and purely design? Yes, actually, there's this job called UX engineering or product design engineer in some companies, especially startups. I find that they are probably more common because in startups, you'll be often putting more hats on and doing design and also coding. So for startups, there's more opportunities for that. But I know also Facebook, they like it when designers can code as well. So it definitely helps you. But I've also noticed that when talking to my UX design friends, like as you move higher and higher up the ladder in UX design, you'll less likely be working with engineers, you'll be working with more designers. But there are a lot of opportunities out there called product design engineering, UX design engineering. So Divine Grace asks, what is the difference between UX design and UI UX designer? So they're both pretty similar. So UX designer focus on the problem, like solving problems, like the flow, kind of like how I describe like a human body. So like the skeleton, how it moves, and UI is like the skin, how it looks. So UI designer is the user interface, and UX is user experience. So UI is how things look and more using visual design skills, and UX is solving how the overall experience would look like. But they both are very similar, and it's good to have knowledge of both and being able to talk about both as well. And Michelle asks, for hackathons, do you generally work with people you know or strangers? If you work with strangers, how is your experience like? I usually work with strangers, to be honest, because oftentimes, like for me personally, like if I like were to reach out to people, I would feel like I had to be the main project manager, and for me, I just don't have that bandwidth to do that. So I work with strangers. Actually, everyone I've met. So I did about 7 to 9 hackathons from like February to May, and my first one was like in-person one this year, and I only knew one person, but she knew all the others. And I worked with strangers for the rest because it was all online, and I just like found people over the world to work with, and yeah, so it was interesting. I feel like strangers, it's really depends. Most of the time I had a positive experience. Sometimes, like for one of the hackathons I'm in, they just like stopped replying. I think they just like kind of changed scope of the project and people kind of stopped being into it, so they just like stopped replying. But that's just like one of the projects I've done. Usually it's pretty great because people are often in hackathons because they want to make something. So there's that as well. And yeah, it really depends. And I also met a lot of people during hackathons. And usually when meeting strangers, I would like look into like the project pitch channel and just like for me, I would just have people reach out to me. I would just say like, I'm Grace, I'm a UX designer, I do this. I'm interested in working in like projects related to these fields, and people would just like pitch their projects to me, and that's how I would do when working with strangers as well. And yeah, sometimes I would just like, or I would like go with a friend, and they would also bring on other friends as well, and I would meet them that way. Yeah, so I have about 4 minutes left. Feel free to get in your last questions. Let me know how you feel, or post, or yeah, let me know anything, or feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions as well. And yeah, so we have about 3 minutes left. So feel free to, either if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask as well. Yeah. Yeah, Lakeith asked, can you share this slide? Which slide? Oh, the slide. Oh, the whole slide deck. I won't be sharing this slide, but this presentation. Oh, the one I was explaining. Explaining which part? Oh yeah, so Conchanta will be uploading this, so you'll see the slides from there as well. I also have a Medium article touching kind of more in detail about some things I said as well, so feel free to check it out. It's on my LinkedIn. Oh, the PowerPoint. Yeah, I will not be sharing the PowerPoint, but this session is recorded, and you'll see the slides as well. Yeah, so about 2 minutes left before we move on to John. And yeah, so what time is it where everyone's at? It's about 9 a.m. here, and it's pretty early. I'm usually a night owl, but I'm trying to work towards being a more early bird again. Oh yeah, 9 a.m. Especially on a Saturday. But I feel more productive and like wake up early. I also slept at like 2 or 3 a.m. last night. So yeah, I had 2 cups of coffee so far, and I've been ready to go about my day because I am hosting another event at 10 and also hosting a whole day of InternCon today as well. So I'm super excited for that. And also, 9 p.m. That's cool. And also to be dropping the link to Design Buddies if you're interested, and feel free to stay on for our next presentation as well. So this is Design Buddies. You're welcome to DM me here or connect with me on LinkedIn and send me any follow-up messages you have, and I'll be answering any. To be honest, my LinkedIn messages can be a jungle sometimes. So I try to reply to everyone once a day. So feel free, if you like have something urgent, ping me on like any of my other platforms, just because my LinkedIn messages can be a jungle sometimes. But I also just like to post career-related content and more design content as well, and post a lot more content on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to connect with me, and you're welcome, Martha. Yeah, so 1 more minute left. Feel free to get in your last questions. Join Design Buddies, connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, so don't leave. We'll have another section. John will be speaking about design systems in Figma, and I'll also be staying for that as well. I just had to dip out a few minutes early because I'm hosting another event at 10, which you're also welcome to come as well. It's in Design Buddies. Right after John's presentation, and InternCon. So I'll be dropping the link to InternCon today. You're welcome to come. I'm helping host it. I'm also one of the admins of Intern Club, the largest intern community in the world. So we're going to join InternCon, which happens at 12 p.m. today. So in about 3.5 hours, we'll be having InternCon as well if you're looking for more content, and we'll also be having a section for designers as well. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, should we switch it over now? Yeah, you're welcome. Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.